Festivus.
It's nothing. It's nothing.
When George was growing
Jerry,
up,
no.
his father hated all the commercial and religious aspects of Christmas, so he made up his own holiday.
All right.
And instead of a tree, didn't your father put up an aluminum pole?
Jerry, stop it.
And then weren't there feats of strength that always ended up with you crying?
I can't take it anymore. I'm going to work. You happy now?
Well, welcome to my Whiskey Den, your favorite public access whiskey review show where craft whiskey is king. And that's no different than any other day. And we really want to invite you to something special we're doing tonight. We are doing the 5 Whiskeys for Festivus Challenge. We're starting it out, and we'll nominate some people at the end. But there are a couple things I think we should kind of go over, like what are the categories for what we're talking about. First off, there's going to be 5 categories: the Festivus Pole, a Festivus Dinner, the airing of grievances, the Festivus Miracles that always happen, and of course the Festivus Feats of Strength. Now, each of these, when we go through them, we'll explain them just a little bit more. But before we go any further, Mike, what do we usually tell our lovely fans here about our channel at this point?
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, comment on the live chat, comment down below. Hit the bell notification to find out when new episodes are coming out, when we're going live. And almost every single Monday night is a live episode, usually in an Evening With series where we bring somebody on.
And that is very true. But we're not doing that tonight. Like, we're just happy that you are all here in the chat and doing something special with us tonight. So why don't we kick off the very first one that we're talking about, and that is going to be the Festivus.
No, instead there's a pole. Requires no decoration. I find tinsel distracting.
That's right. So on this in particular one, the pole has a high strength to weight ratio, and tinsel is very distracting for George's father. So on this one, we thought something that was high proof, but at the same time has no fancy finishing or anything crazy like that. And on that note, I'm going to back out and like Mike or Ben start this part so we don't get that little echo kick.
Go ahead, Ben.
Alrighty, man. High strength to weight ratio. I'm going with some Iron Root Harbinger single barrel. And this one's cranking it at 124.5 proof. And darn kids. But yeah, this one, it's big, it's bold, it's really dense and chewy and just intense flavor. So to me, as far as a great craft whiskey that just signifies the basic aluminum pole, it's a straightforward corn whiskey, but really good bourbon and packs quite a wallop of flavor. So that's the craft version. So we're doing kind of 2 here. We're doing our craft whiskeys, and then we're doing kind of the standard you might find in the store more easily. So as far as the straight up aluminum pole version, I got the Jack Daniel's barrel proof, just straight Jack Daniel's, straight from the barrel whiskey. This one coming in at 64.9%. And again, big, dense, chewy flavors, and just no special finishing, no tinsel, nothing pretty about it, but just really good, strong whiskey. So,
All right, those are good. I found myself wanting to put a couple of whiskeys in different categories, just because I was like, that would fit. And anyway, so number one, I don't have any whiskeys around me because anyone who's familiar with the show, this is not my normal background. I am laid up with a bad back, so no whiskey around me, just water. So I don't have any bottles to show off. So my Festivus Pole, because it's high proof, no finish, nothing crazy, but just something big, bold flavor. I was looking at Russell's Reserve single barrel. For a craft one,
That's
nice. Craft one was kind of hard because I wanted to get craft that was high in barrel proof, but not too overwhelming, but definitely a big flavor explosion. So I picked Wood Hat Bloody Butcher Red Single Barrel.
That's nice. That's actually pretty interesting because I'll be honest, that's what I went with my craft one for the very first one for the poll, just because it is very straightforward, but it actually has quite a bit of depth, of richness and flavor to it, and there is no extra fancy stuff that's being done to it. And on that thing, for the actual regular version, for what everyone else will probably be going, I went with a Booker's. I went with just a big, bold, kind of aggressively grab you a little bit. Everyone's had a half a bottle of Booker's and had a good evening, and you've seen it disappear, and just excitement happens and ensues. So I think it's one a little, but is going to be kind of jumping out at you right away and coming at you, because I had a hard time coming up with another one. I was going to go with maybe Four Roses Single Barrel, because it was kind of a straight, kind of standard one, but I think the Booker is just that higher proof, the strength to weight ratio. You just you get more kick, you get more bang for the buck when you're doing that one. So I'm definitely going to have to lean that way on those two. But after you get done with coming into the house and seeing the wonderful Festivus Pole, we got to slide on over, because the next best thing is the dinner.
Hey, happy Festivus, everyone!
And this one is pretty easy, because all we're doing is pairing something that you're going to want to have with dinner. So this doesn't have too crazy or horrendous other things going on. So just pretty standard. And for me, my dinner whiskey, and I was going to fit this in here somewhere because it's pretty close to Christmas, December 23rd. I'm going with the Redbreast 12. That's my dinner, Christmas kind of Festivus dinner drink. And then on the craft side, it was a toss-up. I was going for some Homer, Wisconsin stuff, where either it was going to be the J. Henry Anniversary or the Dancing Goat Cask Strength. And I haven't had this year's J. Henry Anniversary yet, so I'm going to go with the Dancing Goat Cask Strength, just because it does have punch. It has some nice body and bowls, but it's kind of mellow, and it's not going to dominate the food flavors that you're having at that point. So that's where I'm going with that one. Excuse me. Mike, where did you pick for the dinner?
So yeah, for the dinner was that was honestly one of the more difficult ones, because I was trying to pick whiskeys that I thought would be complementary to everything, not something that would jump out, something that would work well. But for the non-craft side, I went with Green Spot Chateau Lavelle Barton, which is a fantastically wine finished Irish whiskey. It's sweet. It's sweeter than normal. It's got a little bit of a sugar cookie on the nose and on the palate. It's a very fine drink. For the craft side, this was really hard, because I was trying to find something that again would be complementary to the food and not make you stop and then want to pay attention to the whiskey, which we would all do that at some point. But actually, I went with the Far North Rockner Rye.
I was going to say,
That's an interesting choice.
I can see that too. That was an interesting one. I like that.
It was just it was a Limousine Rye was on my list for a really long time, but I was afraid that Limousine Rye would could get lost in the meal, and only just because it's not. I mean, it's not a very bold rye. It's a very nice rye. So I just thought it'd be too nice. Since I don't have cask strength and I don't think we can buy it yet, I didn't pick that one. But that if we could get Limousine Rye cask strength, that would have totally made the list.
Very good, very good. Ben, Ben, what did you come up with over there?
Well, for dinner whiskey, going with the craft one first, I went with something that's a little just easy. So I feel like it would work with a lot of things that you're, different plates, different things you're eating. But if I'm thinking of like Christmas, kind of holiday Festivus type dinner. Either having turkey or ham and all the fixings and stuff. So something that just sips easy, you can enjoy it with the meal, and but it's still really good and would, I think, work with a lot of different things. The Treaty Oak Ghost Hill bourbon, the wheated bourbon. It's just a nice, easy sipping, not overly complex in any way, and just really good. And I think the flavors would just work well with a lot of different things. Going towards the big side of things here, easy to find. So I went with a classic Kentucky Russell's Reserve single barrel bourbon. It's just, it is more complex. It's got a lot more flavors going on, but I think at the same time it would still play well with a lot of different things. So
I don't think it's going to get overridden by too much of the meal either. It'll at least hang around and not get drowned out. So it's not bad. I like all those ones so far. Now we start moving on to stuff that gets to be kind of interesting here, because after you start eating, the first thing you do at the meal is have the airing of grievances.
At the Festivus Dinner, you gather your family around and tell them all the ways they have disappointed you over the past year.
So what this whiskey is supposed to represent is, after that happens at your meal, or whatever causes some type of friction throughout the day, because it's a long day and a lot of people have something pop up and happen. Maybe there's a political argument that could easily spurn some stuff right now. But you need a whiskey that is going to be so good that it's going to clear the air after after the airing of grievances. So, Ben, what did you go with for your airing of grievances whiskey? What can save the rest of the day?
Well, I got a lot of problems with you people, and now you're going to hear about it. so for me to clear the air, Catoctin Creek's cast strength rye. It's big, it's dark, it's earthy. There's just so much there to just completely take you away and take your mind away from all the ways people have disappointed you all year long. So.
And what about your big brand one?
Big one? Yeah, if I need something on the big side that's going to take me away, wash all the disappointment, all the rage, all the anger, all that frustration. I'm just sitting there at the table. I'm looking at my family, and I'm so disappointed. So disappointed. I need some Ardbeg Supernova.
Ooh.
Some big heat, big smoke, and I can forget all the bad things. So.
What's not supposed to necessarily be about you just forgetting all the bad things with everyone at the table. Uncle Ben squared himself away. Well, I'm good.
I'm good. Forget all the rest of you people. You've disappointed me.
Mike, what did you get on your end over there?
Okay, so for the airing of the grievances, for the big boy or big brand, I picked Redbreast 12 cast strength. Because, who knows more about fighting with your family and making up than the Irish? But if you get something like Redbreast 12 cast strength, which is full of flavor, it's not something they probably have had if they've had Irish before. It sure isn't Jameson. It's good stuff. So then on the craft side, this is another one where it's really hard, because I also thought of a great non-whiskey, but for a craft whiskey, I picked Spirits of French Lick, the Matty Gladden. Because once again, who knows more about dealing with grievances than Matty Gladden, who married the same guy 2 different times and then middle shot him in the face. So clearly, Matty knows a thing or two about airing grievances, and also nobody would dare mess with Matty. But I think the name alone would be good to stop the fighting conversation with somebody else and tell them the story of Matty. But that's a whiskey that I'm very fond of, and there's just so much flavor, and every time that I go back to it, I'm always surprised.
Oh, sorry, I was just reading Spencer complaining about a little BTAC Pappy over there. It's okay, you can keep complaining. I'm going to tell you, it's not worth it. Don't worry about that. There's stuff on the stream that's way better. But for my airing of grievances, I went with, for the big brand, I went with a Midwinter Night's Dram. Now, I had a discussion with these guys before because they were smaller, kind of doing a little more niche stuff, but they are all over the place now. They're in a lot of liquor stores, and even some of the other ones, I don't know, you can find them. Midwinter Night's Dram isn't off limits to other people. So I think that's one that would definitely kind of clear the air after a little bit of a fight and get kind of people more focused on the whiskey and the flavors of Christmas than what had actually transpired. And, well, Mike and I have some very similar thought processes with the airing of grievances, because I thought, you know, who would be better than to clear up an argument than a madam? She's going to snap that shit right done right away. There's going to be no more arguing. It's going to be over. It's going to be back onto business, because you're going to be enjoying yourself. So I went with the Maddie Gladden 2 for the airing of grievances whiskey. I think she can handle herself and really create something interesting for people who haven't had it, pull their attention away. And it's really full bodied, and she would snap everyone into order right away. She's not gonna be one of those madams that lets other people be in charge. So that's the one I went with too for the airing of grievances, because I thought that was pretty accurate. Ooh, well, Malcolm is saying that a Bunnahabhain 12 for 12-year-old to forget everything. That's fair. I think everyone's had a little bit of that and kind of lost their space for a second. But at this point, we're going to have to move on to one of the most exciting ones, the Festivus Miracle.
I told them I was just about to see you. It's a Festivus Miracle.
That's right. Festivus Miracles. There is nothing better than one of those. Now, this is one that is very similar to the one we just did, but it is different, because I thought that this one is one that should have to change your whole holiday season around. If you're bugging and being a big pain in the butt or asshole to people, which sometimes I are when the Christmas season kicks up, maybe this dram will turn the whole thing around for you that night, that day, that end of the year, and make your holiday season go great. So, on that note, my kind of Festivus Miracle standard release, well, not really standard, but the one most people can get a little more sought after. For me, I went Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend is what I went with that one. I feel like that at the end of the day, so you're getting, say, 6, 7 o'clock, you've already eaten the second time, you've had everything else happen. I think this is one that you could sit down and could drag your attention and refocus it, and just put you in a moment of enjoyment for a little bit. So that's the way I went with the big brand name. Now, the small brand, I went with ASW's Amaris Otter they released this year. Little more subtle, but that one I think was a surprise for me, and it has really a whole bunch of layered flavoring to that I think will draw people's attention as well too. It's going to refocus them and get them kind of centered on something different. It's up there in the top 5 for me for my whiskeys this year, of definitely at least new ones, if not top 5 for all of them. So those are mine. Mike, what are yours?
So mine. See, I wasn't looking so much as a miracle to necessarily change someone's holiday. I was looking at a whiskey that would change somebody. So, and I was thinking, people have preconceived notions about stuff. But I was really stuck between, for the big names, having them try a Wild Turkey Rare Breed or having them go with a Maker's Mark Cask Strength pick. Because people, I talked to plenty of them who were like, oh, Wild Turkey. It's like, well, Wild Turkey's really good. But they just think of it as being, crap whiskey. Same thing with Makers. I don't know why there's a lot of people who hate on Makers, and Makers is just fine. But I could see people saying, oh, I tried Makers once. It's not, now I wouldn't even try anything else. So I was thinking, tell them to go one of those two routes to change their mind. So for a craft site, this is actually really easy, because this is where I had previously mentioned one, because there's a lot of people who don't like rye, and like, oh no, can't do it, can't do a rye. I would 100% give them Dancing Goat Limousine Rye. That is if you say you don't like rye, don't tell them it's rye. Just give it to them. They won't guess. And some of those, those really weird folks who don't like black licorice and anise in their rye, then, they're bound to like this. They can't not like it.
That stuff's like poison. It shouldn't be in whiskey. That's all I gotta say about that. Ben, what do you got?
I think you got some grievances to air against rye there, Patrick. Do we need to go back to the airing of grievances?
So that can be like after stream. After stream can be legit airing of grievances against rye. It'll be bad. I don't think that should be on the show.
All right. So I'm going to start Festivus Miracle. Here we go. For me, I consider them a big guy, basically. They got distribution all across. It's not that hard of a whiskey to find compared to, I guess, some other things that are allocated, but Midwinter Night's Dram, because it's honestly nothing. I don't know that I've had another whiskey that really speaks to me of the Festivus holiday season than a Midwinter Night's Dram. It's, some people call it Christmas in a glass, basically. And I think that's a really apt description. And there you go. It's a rye, Patrick, just for you. But it's a freaking gorgeous rye. It's a miracle of a whiskey. And I guess that's kind of what I'm looking at. It is something I would pour in a glass, I would give to somebody, and I would expect a big wow factor from them off of trying it. Like, holy cow, this is miraculous. This could turn around my holiday or turn my experience. From the craft side, you guys have already mentioned this one, but the Matty Gladden, because it's just so freaking good. Again, a high rye bourbon that's got so much complexity and flavors going on. The way the mash and the grain is so forward on it, how it all just works together. And for me, it's been one of my top 5 whiskeys all year ever since I first tried it. Simply amazing, and absolutely love that one. So those are my 2 Festivus Miracle whiskeys.
I gotta agree. There are some good choices, and now it brings us to the very, very last one we have to discuss. And I'm gonna have to get another drink out while we're waiting. It brings us to the Festivus Feats of Strength.
Until you pin me, George.
What the hell?
Until you pin me, George. Festivus is not over.
Oh, please, somebody stop this.
Let's rumble!
And on this one, I did something a little bit different. On this, I wanted something that was going to challenge your guests a little bit when they come in. I didn't want this just to be something easy, because hell, you're supposed to pin Mr. Costanza before you leave. Festivus isn't done until you do this. So this has to be something that your guest comes over that they struggle with. Maybe they like it when they get done. Maybe they don't. Who knows? Maybe they win, they lose. But this is the very last thing that happens at Festivus. So I went with something that was, like I said, supposed to make you struggle a little bit. So my big one, the mainstream brand one, really simple, George T. Stagg. That makes a lot of people struggle. They complain about it. May not be for me. I'm totally happy with it. But I think mainstream, that's one that has a lot of punch and has it's a little more heat on it than some other people are ready for right away. But I think it's great. And on the second one, for craft side on this one, I went with the Rua Port finish, because mine is like, I think 62%, and it does bring some aggressiveness to it, especially on the first drink. It kind of grabs you by the shirt and like lets you know like you're in for a ride. And then on the second and third drink, it gets a little more flavorful and everything starts to pull through and come out and come to fruition. But it's a little bit of a fight right away, but it's a fight worth having because it is some wonderful flavors coming through it. So those were my 2. Ben, what did you pick on this one?
So swinging back to the craft side of things on this one, we talked about this one recently, but somebody's got to wrestle and pin something down. It's got to be some Brimstone. I mean, it's just hard to get around that one. To me, that one was almost too obvious to pick out. I had a few things to kick around on that, but I just kept coming right back to Brimstone every time, because especially if it's a newbie and they've never had anything like that before. That just the corn oils and oh my goodness, the smoke and intensity of it. Yeah, they're going to have fun trying to take that one down. Good luck, sissy boy. On the bigger side of things, Octomore, just some big peat and smoke, and have fun with that one. So,
in the chat before we switch over to Mike, we had a suggestion for a Garrison Brothers cowboy in that range. Haven't had it, have heard something pretty similar to that. I would agree. And Malcolm was saying the Belvani Week of Pete 14-year-old. Just had that, and I loved it, but I could see it would be challenging. And I think that might be a little too much for some people off the bat. But Mike, what are you getting on yours?
Okay, so for Feats of Strength for the large distillery, I picked Jack Daniel's single barrel proof, because it is you might wrestle with just the fact that you're drinking Jack, because people have negative feelings about Jack too, but you look at the proof, when the proof's in the 130s, and it's not a proof that sneaks up on you. It is full on face punch proof, and it's fantastic. So for the craft side, this was really hard because there's two of them that I really were stuck on, actually both from the same distillery, but these are both sourced whiskeys for Cat's Eye Distillery in Iowa, and they do an Obtainium series where they source whiskey, and they've got a Polish rye, 8-year-old Polish rye that's 59.1%, and it is a rye like no other. It is bold and all up in your face, and it's very shocking. and the proof alone with just the flavor stuff, it's something else. But the other one from them, they have an Obtainium 14-year-old light whiskey, which was distilled when MGP was still LDI, I believe. That comes in at 73.5%, and it is so full of flavor. And even at that proof, if you do a really quick drink of it and you try to kind of keep it towards the front of your mouth, you'll think that you were at the dentist, because your mouth is numb, like all around here from all of it. But then it comes back, and there's a lot of really good flavors to it. And they're both fairly easy to find, out of there. But they make no bones about the fact that they were both sourced. One of them actually is a Polish rye whiskey, and like I said, the other one's a 14-year-old MGP now.
And we have those. We'll be getting to those. The 75 one is.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly good for being so high.
Yes.
So, Ben, did we do your list? Did we do your end?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had the Brimstone and Octomore.
Brimstone and Octomore. All right. That is who we picked out for stuff. Now, it's going to come to a section where we have to nominate some of their shows to do the challenge as well, too. So, right away, I feel like we're going to nominate the Rock Gut Review and Ed over at that channel, and Erica. They can come up with a list. I think they might have some pretty interesting things, especially for however they take the Feats of Strength whiskey. Could be pretty badass on their show for that. And the guys at Cast Strength, and girls, sorry, Christine, I didn't mean to screw that up. But you guys, I think, are going to come up with some interesting lists as well, too, especially since I know some of you like Seinfeld and stuff. And we're going to nominate 4. We're going to ask that the shows that do this nominate 2. We're going to nominate 4 just to get it moving. So we are going to look at Whiskey Crusaders, who Matt was in the chat a minute ago. And when we're done here, make sure you stop over at their channel. They'll be on right after us. And Scott over at My Bourbon Journey. I think he'll be able to do it 50-50. He might be super busy. I was talking to him about it, but we're going to nominate him because he's going to have some other neat lists. He's tried some stuff that we haven't gotten to yet that I think might be able to sneak into some areas there and kind of bump up the list, and we just want to see where everyone goes. And at the very end of this, whoever's list we like from all the channels, I'll be donating some samples to them so that they can try some of the stuff that we've been talking on the show, and maybe we can see what they're thinking about. But it'll be up their alley. It won't just be me sending them brimstone or other things to assault their taste buds just for fun, or IPA whiskeys, whatever it is. You know, you don't want to get people too far off center from right away. Mike, we are hoping that you will feel better soon, because
Me too.
that just sucks. That's no fun. But we'll be ready for next Monday. We're working on having Gary from Wood Hat back on, and we're going to be doing a cordial stream either next coming Monday or a little bit later, but little details that'll get measured out, and we'll post everything about that. And then the 14th, we're having Josh back on. He was just on the Texas stream a week ago. We're going to have a whole show to him, like they deserve, because kind of cut him off after 20 minutes. So I wasn't feeling so good about that. But remember, everyone out there, it's the Festivus. Yeah, man.
Five-finger exploding heart punch.
Let's try this again. It's the 5 Whiskeys for Festivus challenge. Thank you for stopping in. Let's see your list. Put them in the comments. But remember, it's not the size of the den that matters. It's the love of whiskey. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3.